Hi. Hi to everyone. Good morning, good evening, depending on where you are. It's early evening here. My name's Mike Halsey, and I'm the author of Troubleshooting Windows 7 Inside Out. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah, I think, yeah, messages there. Right, so let's talk about troubleshooting Windows 7 here. So first of all, let me introduce myself to you so you know who I am. So I'm the author of Troubleshooting Windows 7 Inside Out from Microsoft Press. I'm the author of the self-published Windows 7 Power Users Guide, and I'm a news editor on websites including windows7news.com and ghacks.net. I'm a Microsoft Windows MVP, and you can find me here on my website. There's my Twitter handle. I'm on Facebook and on LinkedIn as well. So I'm easy to find and easy to follow. And events such as this and other webcasts, I always make sure that I have them up on my website on an events list as well. So, what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about, as you know, troubleshooting Windows 7. And I want to start with some of the easy ways and some of the simple ways that you can fix problems in Windows 7. Now, many of you will already be familiar with some of these, but there may be people here today who aren't so familiar. So I'd like to cover some of the basics first. So we'll start with the automated troubleshooters in Windows 7. Now these are new. These are new to Windows 7. You access them through the Action Center, which is the small arrow, up arrow, in the bottom right of your Windows 7 taskbar. And there's quite an extensive selection of automated troubleshooters here. Now, how they work is, as I say here, all they do is they reset Windows components to their default. So let's say you're running a troubleshooter for your sound because you can't get your speakers or your microphone to work. All it will do is it will reset the default settings for that particular device type. But an interesting thing, and this is especially useful in enterprise, if there's any of you who work in enterprises, you can write your own troubleshooters if you're familiar with extensible markup language. If you have the Windows 7 SDK or download the Windows 7 SDK, there's a folder here. You can see the bin TSP designer, troubleshooting pack designer folder. There is an SDK in there that allows you to write your own XML troubleshooters. Now these can be especially useful for, let's say you have bespoke software or you have bespoke hardware let's say you have one particular type of printer throughout your company, throughout your business, and you can write a troubleshooter to automatically reset all of the parameters for that printer to the default. This means that end users can then run this troubleshooter themselves. It can greatly reduce the amount of time and the amount of expense spent on the support lines, and there are many other benefits to this, particularly with bespoke software as well. The arrow, I can see some people are asking, if you're running Windows 7, it's only in Windows 7 this, then it's down on the bottom right hand side of your Windows 7 taskbar where you've got your clock and your actions arrow. Sorry, there's me saying it's the arrow. Click on the white flag. Click on the flag, not the arrow, and you can access the automatic troubleshooters from there by clicking the white flag. Next, I'd like to talk about System Restore. Now, System Restore you'll probably already be familiar with. This has been around since Windows XP. It takes a snapshot of any files that change in Windows when you perform an operation such as install a device driver, or if you install a new piece of software, or you install a Windows update. And it's very useful for being able to roll back changes, because even Windows updates can cause your computer to become unstable, because when you think about it, Microsoft have got something like 1 billion computers to support. No two computers are the same. They're all going to be different, and it's an extremely useful feature. And there are several ways to access System Restore. I'll talk about another one in a little while, but the main way to do it is to access it from the control panel or from Help, which you've got directly on your Start menu. So, as I said, you can also roll back device drivers here. So let's have a look at troubleshooting device managers. So device drivers here. So when you're in the device manager, you can right-click on any device, and you can do one of two things with it. You can either select properties for that device from the context menu that appears, or you can uninstall it. Now, if you select the properties for that device, then you can roll back the driver using the System Restore functionality. Now, this will only work if you've upgraded the driver for that hardware device. So you could go to roll back the driver and discover that there isn't one that you can roll back to, because this is the first driver that you've got. So another way to do it, if you're having trouble with the device driver, is to uninstall it. But in previous versions of Windows, one of the biggest problems with devices was that you uninstalled it, Windows kept a copy of that device driver on your hard disk, and then when you went to reinstall it, it would reinstall the defective driver that you didn't want. And it was very difficult sometimes actually forcing Windows to install the correct driver. So now, with most, not all, but most device drivers in Windows, when you uninstall it, you'll see, as you've got here, a little tick box to automatically delete that driver software from your hard drive. And that can completely delete all of the files, so that when you come to reinstall that driver, this defective driver won't necessarily be there. Another way to make sure that you can minimize troubleshooting problems is obviously to keep backups of your machine. I just want to talk about this briefly. You can create a system image in every single edition of Windows 7 by selecting Backup and Restore from the control panel, or by typing backup into the search box in the Start menu. And you'll see here on the screen here in the blue panel on the left hand side, there's a link to create a system image. There's also a link to create a system repair disk, and I'll talk about those a little bit more shortly. But did you know that in Windows 7 you can create a virtual machine of Windows 7 and you can boot from it? This means that you can actually add this virtual machine to your boot menu on your PC, so that your regular copy installed on your hard drive of Windows 7 will appear there, but also the virtual machine will appear there as well. Now, the big advantage of this, especially in an enterprise environment, is that first of all, you can install the 64-bit version of Windows, which Microsoft Virtual PC doesn't support. That will only support 32-bit versions of Windows. But also, unlike running a copy of Windows 7 in Virtual PC, this virtual machine, because you're actually booting from it, can take full advantage of all of the hardware resources in your computer. So it can see all of your hardware, it can take full advantage of your graphics card. You can do anything in it at all. You really would never notice the difference between booting from a regular copy of Windows 7 installed on your hard drive and booting from a copy of Windows 7 in this virtual machine. Now you need Windows 7 Enterprise or Ultimate in order to be able to take advantage of this, but it's a great feature and it's well documented as well on the Microsoft website. But I may do a webcast on this in the near future because it's a very useful thing to know about. And of course, the rule: always keep regular backups of your files and data, and try and keep a backup off-site if you can. So now, one of the biggest problems with causing problems with Windows is users, because there is nothing that a computer can do on its own to cause a problem, because a user has to be involved in some way with everything that goes wrong. Now, with Windows 7 Professional and above, you have a group policy editor, and you can use this to do all sorts of things, such as, for instance, blocking access to USB flash drives and other external media, other external hard drives and the like, to prevent people from being able to transfer malware or viruses onto your computer system. Lots of companies will also want to block access to these as well, so that they can stop people from stealing corporate data. But there's all sorts of useful features here, and one of the best and one of the most useful, I think, is this ability to be able to block access to USB devices, and that's in there. So now we've had just a brief look at some of the easy ways to fix Windows 7, and these are all detailed at much more length in the book. I want to spend the rest of this time looking at more advanced ways to fix it, and in part 2 here we'll look at advanced fixes, and then in part 3 we'll look at yet more advanced things that we can do. So startup repair is extremely useful. If your computer fails to start 3 times, then startup repair will automatically appear, assuming that the folder on your hard drive containing startup repair itself hasn't become corrupt or those files haven't become damaged. So you can also run startup repair from the Windows boot menu. If you press the F8 key on your keyboard, you'll need to press this between the BIOS screen and the Windows logo. You've got a very small window there to, if you'll excuse the pun, to press the F8 key, and you'll see a repair your computer option there for being able to launch startup repair. But again, remember, if the files for startup repair that are on your hard drive have become corrupt, then you won't be able to launch it from your hard drive. So this is where the system repair disk comes in handy. You can create your system repair disk in the backup and restore panel in the control panel, or it's also in the start menu. Type backup into the search box in the start menu, and you can create a system repair disk. Now, a thing to take note of with the system repair disk is that if you have a 64-bit copy of Windows 7 installed and you create a system repair disk, that system repair disk can only be used to repair 64-bit copies of Windows 7. It can be used to repair any 64-bit copy of Windows 7, but only 64-bit copies. Same if you want to start a repair disk for 32-bit Windows, you need to create that disk using a 32-bit copy of Windows. Finally, you can access the startup repair options from your Windows 7 installation DVD. When you click through the first screen where it asks you about your country and your language, just click through that, and at the next screen you'll have a big button in the middle of the screen, do you want to install Windows? And if you look in the bottom left-hand corner, there'll be an option there called Repair Your Computer, and that will take you through to Startup Repair options. So there are a great many options in here. You can see here we've got the automatic startup repair. We have System Restore, that's there. System Image Recovery, which you can use to restore a complete copy of Windows 7 from a backup image if you've created one in Windows 7. There's a memory diagnostic there, which you can run, and there's the command prompt. Now, you'll see here I've got a link to my YouTube videos. If you have a look on there after this webcast, then there's a full video on how to use the startup repair options, and also there's an instructional video short instructional video on how you can actually repair the Windows 7 boot files if they become corrupt from this command prompt in startup repair. There are a few commands that you need to type, but you can completely rebuild the boot files themselves in Windows 7 using that command prompt. Now I want to talk about the system file checker. Now the system file checker I think is fantastic. It's one of the best things in Windows as far as I'm concerned. So what it does is you need your installation DVD for this. You must have your installation DVD on in your optical drive in your computer, and it checks all of the files that you've got that constitute Windows, that make up Windows on your hard drive, and it compares each one of those files with the original file of the installation DVD. If it finds any that have changed or that have become corrupt, then it will copy the original file back from the DVD onto your hard drive and replace the one on your hard drive. It's a wonderful thing. You run it from the command prompt, and when you can access the command prompt in the start menu, type the word command or CMD into the search box in the start menu to get to it quickly. You'll need to run it as an administrator so that it has the rights and privileges that it needs in order to write Windows files to the disk. It's in every version of Windows 7. Once you're in that command prompt, you type this command here, sfc, then a space, then a /, and the word scan now. That's one word. And the system file checker will then automatically run and compare these files. Now, many of you will now have Service Pack 1 installed, and the one problem with System File Checker is that you must have the latest, whatever Service Pack you have installed on your copy of Windows, be that Service Pack 1 or Service Pack 2, must also be integrated into that installation DVD. The reason being that the core operating system files change when you have a service pack, and the System File Checker will compare the files that you've got on your hard drive with what will essentially be an outdated and an older version of those files on the installation DVD. So you need to make sure that you can integrate the service pack into the DVD. Now there are several ways to do this. If you have a look on my website, I've recently written some articles on how to do this. There's software that you can get free to download that will do this for you, and there's more you can do as well. There's other tutorials there on how you can create, for instance, a USB pen drive with every single version of Windows on it, every single edition, and the 32 and 64-bit ones. So there's a series of tutorials there, but there's one where all the information you need about integrating a service pack into your Windows 7 DVD is there. And again, on YouTube, I've got a video on how to use the system file checker. So, next, let's talk about Internet Explorer. Now, Internet Explorer can cause all sorts of problems. Normally, the best and only way to repair Internet Explorer if something goes wrong with it, and I'm willing to bet that many of you will have done this or advised somebody else to do it, or will know of somebody else who's done it at some point over the years. The best way to fix a problem with Internet Explorer is to stop using it and download and install another browser, such as Firefox or Google Chrome. But you don't have to, especially with Internet Explorer 9, but this is in Internet Explorer 8 as well. If you go into the Internet options, which is available from, you'll see the little cog wheel button. Go into the Internet options, and on the Advanced tab there, you can press the Reset button, which you can see highlighted here, to reset Internet Explorer to all of its default settings. Now, the important thing to note here is that you won't lose all your internet favorites. You could lose your logins for some websites, but the important thing, your internet favorites, they will be safe because they're stored separately in your user folder. They're not integrated into the Internet Explorer files themselves. And this is a really good way of being able to get Internet Explorer working again if it fails to operate. And there's also the Safe Boot diagnostic mode. Now, you will probably be familiar with safe mode. If Windows won't start, then it will probably say it wants to start up in safe mode. And safe mode is a reduced functionality mode, but the Safe Boot diagnostic mode offers you even more. Now, you run this from the msconfig panel. So if you type msconfig into the search box in the start menu, then you'll bring this up. And under the boot tab, you'll see a tick box there for doing a safe boot. Now, the difference between a safe boot and a safe mode is that safe mode will limit you to a maximum screen resolution. It'll run with your the absolute bare minimum video driver, in fact the absolute bare minimum driver for everything, and there's really not a lot you can do in safe mode. But Safe Boot will allow you to use your full screen resolution, it will allow you to use all of your hardware, but it will just limit any damage that can be done by things like faulty drivers, and it won't load any software that runs automatically at Windows startup. And it's a wonderful alternative to Safe Boot. You just need to remember that when you want to stop using Safe Boot, you have to go back into the msconfig panel and untick it in order to get Windows to then reboot in its normal mode. So that's some of the advanced ways that we can fix and repair Windows 7. Now I want to have a look at some of the advanced diagnostics, and I'm going to look at some of the options that are here, and then I'll do a live demonstration for you of some of these so that you can actually see them working in practice. First one to start with is the event viewer. Now, the event viewer is your friend. The event viewer is wonderful. It stores all the events that occur within Windows 7. There are some exceptions. I mean, I've encountered some myself recently, but it's generally speaking, it will store everything. It will store warnings, it will store errors, it will store critical events that cause Windows to crash and to blue screen. It will store all sorts of information like that. And it will keep a log of all of this so that you can go back, and you can go back historically and look at all of the errors that have occurred in Windows since you installed it. and it can store a lot of information about these codes, such as the error code themselves, which is very useful for looking up online. If you're ever presented with an error code, and we're going to look at the blue screen of death in a bit, you can look up an error code online, and you'll find that you're not the first person to have had this problem, and that other people may have a quick and easy fix for you. But one of the most interesting things, and one of the little known things about the event viewer, is that you can actually trigger actions to occur when an event happens, and this is very useful in enterprise. Now we'll have a live demonstration of this, so you can actually see it working in a little while. But let's say you work in an enterprise, and you have a user who was reporting an intermittent fault. Now it's not actually stopping him from working, but something is going on. You've had a look at the event viewer on his computer, and you can see that perhaps his printer driver is crashing. But there's no visible outward sign on his screen that there's any problem. All he knows is that when he goes to print, then all of a sudden he can't. Now this could be caused by a conflict with a piece of bespoke software. It could be caused by the fact that he's plugging in a USB device that's causing a driver conflict. There could be anything. So what you can do is you can trigger specific actions, such as an alert on the screen to tell the user that this error has occurred again, stop what he's doing, and send information about his system at that time and what's running to a support person. And we'll have a look at how we can do this in a little bit. Now, performance information and tools can provide huge swathes of information, and this is something else we're going to have a look at. You access it by clicking Advanced Tools here in Performance Information and Tools, which you can access from the control panel. Typing performance into the search box in the Start menu will get you there as well. There's a wide variety of tools, including a system health report, which is very, very useful for taking away and looking at afterwards. I find one of the biggest issues with troubleshooting problems is that sometimes you're too close to it. Sometimes you really can't see the wood for the trees. You're there, you've got this problem, you're determined to fix it, and there are occasions where you just need to take a step back and you need to take some time, and you can print out the system health report and you can look at it on the train on the way home, or the following morning, and you can then sometimes see things that you wouldn't have seen if you were so close to it and so determined to fix it there and then. And we're going to look at performance information tools later in a live demo. Now, Problem Steps Recorder. This was a lovely little tool that was introduced with the beta of Windows 7, and beta testers loved it so much that Microsoft decided to keep it. You won't find it in the Start menu, you won't find it in Performance Information and Tools, you won't find it in the Computer Management Console, but if you type PSR into the search box in the Start menu, you will find it there. So, what does it do? It records your screen, and it does all sorts of other things as well. So let's say you're having a problem with a bit of software, something's crashing, and you can have a user work through the steps of what happens when they create when that error occurs. It will record the screen. It will highlight, as you can see here, there's a box in green. It will highlight any area of the screen that is active. In this case, we can see we're looking at the event viewer in this case, and we can see that there's the left-hand panel of that is where the mouse cursor is. That's what's active, and therefore that area is highlighted. And as well as saving, it doesn't save it as a video, it saves it as a series of screenshots, so that every time something is clicked on, every time something changes on the screen, it will take a screenshot. But with that screenshot, it will save all sorts of additional information about what is happening with Windows at the time, what is running, and it's a really, really good way of being able to diagnose problems. So these files that are produced by the Problem Steps Recorder can be automatically emailed by the software itself, but you'll probably find that you need to have Outlook or another email client installed on your computer, or they can be saved, and if you're using webmail such as Hotmail, Windows Live Mail, you can then attach this file to an email and send it to a support person, or have a user send it to you if you are the support person. Right, and the last thing I want to look at here before we go to the demo is the blue screen of death, and how we actually get useful information from the blue screen of death. Because there's a lot of text there, not a lot of it is very useful, and there's really just two things about the blue screen of death that are really useful. These two things, you can see I've highlighted them here and I've underlined them. One of which is the error name, and the other of which, further down the page, is the actual stop error code. These two bits of information, when you get a blue screen of death, these two bits of information are really good for looking up on the internet. And here we've got a little bit of text behind our image, but sometimes when you get a blue screen of death, it will appear for about 2 or 3 seconds, and then your computer will restart and you won't get to read it. If that happens, then you want to get to the Windows 7 boot menu, which means pressing the F8 key between the BIOS disappearing and between the Windows 7 logo loading logo appearing to bring up the boot menu, and from the boot menu select the option Disable Automatic Restart on System Failure. Once that is selected, then the next time you get a blue screen of death, it will just stay on that blue screen, and you'll be able to see the error name, you'll be able to see the error code, you'll be able to write them down, and the next time you restart your PC or on another PC, you'll be able to look that up online and get more information on it. So now we'll have a live demonstration now, and we'll just switch over to this, and we'll look at some of these things here. So, okay, right. Can everybody see the Windows desktop here? Wait for some answers. Now, okay, you can see the Windows 7 desktop. Right, first thing I want to do is have a look at performance information and tools. So, if we just type perf, for instance, into the search box in the start menu, and this is by far the fastest way of getting access to anything in Windows, we can see that performance information and tools in the control panel appears here. So we'll click on that. Now, by default, this is going to take us to our Windows Experience Index page, and here we'll be able to see our score, which is very useful if you're a gamer and you want to compare your computer with other gamers. But here in the blue panel on the left hand side, we have a link to advanced tools, so we'll have a look at that. Now again, the first one here is for your Windows Experience Index score, but we've got a link here for the event log, which we're going to have a look at next. We've got other links: a performance monitor, a resource monitor, the task manager, which again, an easy way to get to that is to right click on the taskbar and you've got Start Task Manager there. We've got System Information page, and down the bottom we've got a System Health report. So let's have a look at some of these. I want to have a look at the Performance Monitor. Now, the Performance Monitor will give you information in real time of things that are happening on your computer. If we click on Performance Monitor here in the left hand pane, then we have a graph here that's showing, and we can see here it's showing our processor time here on this computer. But there's all sorts of other information that you can select. Let's say we want to untick that. we can press the Add button at the top of this window, and there are huge numbers of different things that we can monitor here in Windows in real time. Absolutely huge numbers. Now, let's say we want to look at networking, for instance. So we'll find, here we are, network interface. There it is on our list. Now, if we pull this list down here, then there's all sorts of other things that we can view. So we can select, if we want, individual things there. We can add them to our counter, bytes sent, bytes received, and when we press OK, then we'll see here that we now have a graph will appear. But you can also select a whole category if we want. Let's say we want to look at the memory there, then it's easy to be able to just click on memory, add all of that, and you'll be able to see your memory usage as well. So if you've got something going on in your copy of Windows that perhaps is causing a problem, it's especially good for diagnosing network issues, then the performance monitor here can give you live information on what is happening. You can see everything is color coded, so you can see exactly what's going on. Someone's just asked if performance can be monitored remotely. If you can access somebody's screen using a PC sharing, some PC sharing software, then yes, you can view this remotely. But you can also here, there's other tools for being able to highlight things as well, and for being able to save logs as well. So that's the performance monitor there. The resource monitor, again, similar, will give you all sorts of information about what's going on for your processor, for your hard disk, for your network, and for your memory here. And you can see graphs and you can see live information on everything that's going on. And while a lot of this information is already here available in the task manager, you'll see there's huge amounts of additional information available in the resource monitor. Right. Okay, sorry about that, everybody. My internet connection went down, which is always the way during these things. So we've looked at the resource monitor here, and down at the bottom, a system health report will give us all sorts of huge volume of information about the computer that can be taken away, and it can be emailed to people, it can be read later on or sent to dedicated support personnel if needs be. So that's there as well. And system information as well here has all sorts of information about your computer and what's going on with it. So these are very valuable tools. Now, I want to have a look at the event viewer here. Now, you'll see it's already in the start menu, but if you type event into the event viewer, then that's an easy way to get to it. You can get to it through the control panel as well. Now, I talked a little earlier about being able to trigger actions on specific events. Now, here we can see a list of events. We haven't got a very big window here, but we can see specific events. In the last 24 hours or 7 days, there have been no critical events. There has been one error in the last 24 hours and 2 in the last 7 days. So let's open these errors. And here we can see they've both been a WMI error here. So we can double click on that and we can get more information about it. Now, here, as I said, if there was an error code, as in the case of something like blue screen of death, it would appear. Here we've got, there's our error code there. But let's say that we want to be able to alert a user to the fact that a problem exists. Now, you'll see here on the right-hand pane, in the Actions pane, you can attach a task to this event here. So if we click on that, we can create a task. So we can give it a name. We'll say we'll say WMI event task, and we can add a description to that as well, which may be useful, so that you can say I'm doing this so that so Alex is alerted when a printer malfunctions, and you can add information such as asset tags if needs be. So now we want this to happen when this event is logged. Now, what do we want to do? Do we want to start a program? Do we want to send an email? Or do we want to display a message? Now, what you can do, and we haven't got time for it today, but it's well documented, is you can use scripting with with these tasks in order to do more than one thing. So, for instance, you could use scripting to run the system health report and provide a full health report for the computer, diagnostic report, and then automatically email that to a support person. So that just happens in the background. So you can use scripting with it. But here we'll say we're going to display a message. That message will say WMI alert for Alex. This error has occurred again. Please stop what you're doing and call tech support. So that then will automatically happen whenever that error occurs. And you can do this on any event in the event viewer, and we can save that, and the next time that error occurs on this computer, a message will appear on the screen, similar to this dialogue you can see here on the screen, to say this error has reoccurred, and they should call a support person. So that's my live demo, and now I see there's a whole series of questions here. So let's try and go through them. The license restrictions on using another copy of Windows in the VM. You do need, if you want to use a copy of Windows in a virtual machine, you will need a license for it. Some editions of Windows can't be licensed for use in a virtual machine. I believe it's Windows 7 Professional and greater versions are officially licensed for use in a virtual machine, but you may find that if you want to install it in something like Virtual PC, for instance, that it won't even let you install it. If you're using third-party virtualization software, then you wouldn't have a problem, but you do need a license for it. The group policy features, you don't need to be part of an active directory domain, this is at Jim, to utilize the group policy features. You can use the group policy features on a standalone PC in your own in your own house. If you have, let's say you have a PC at home, and and you just have several users on it. You've got one for yourself and another for the kids. Then you're already using group policy, so it's already there to a certain degree. Bearing in mind that you will need, in order to get the group policy panel, you need Windows 7 Professional and above, but you don't need to be part of an active domain. System file checker. I'm not familiar with what you're saying, Scott, about the SHA-1 signatures, but system file checker is absolutely wonderful in my view. Jonathan Glazer, your laptop came pre-installed with Windows 7. All versions of Windows 7 have the system file checker. It's in every single one. Now, I've talked a little bit, Darren's asked here, about Service Pack 1 with the system file checker. As I say, you do need to have Service Pack 1 integrated onto your install DVD, There's a I think it's R7 Lite is the bit of software for integrating Windows 7 Service Pack 1 into that your install DVD, and there's going to be several other bits of software out there to do that at the moment, I'm sure. And the system file checker is also in Windows Vista. Michael. Windows Explorer stopped working. Anything could cause Windows Explorer to stop working, to be perfectly honest with you. It's a good idea, Joan. I would suggest having a look at in the event viewer and seeing if there's any other information when Windows Explorer stopped, to see if it provides you with a particular error code that you can look up online. But that information will be stored in the event viewer. Windows 7 running in a virtual machine and the sound drivers don't work in VirtualBox. To be honest, hardware support is going to change. It's going to vary depending on the virtual machine software that you're using. So I'm not sure about VirtualBox. I've not used it myself, but I would check whether the permissions for the virtual machine in your VM software are set so that it can actually access all of your computer's hardware. Where are we? If a user is already booted, can you reboot your PC and press F8? Will the blue screen well, if you have a blue screen of death and your computer restarts and you go back to the desktop, then yes, you would need to restart again, press the F8 key to select disable the automatic restart on system failure, so that you could then, when you get the blue screen of death the next time, actually read the information. It's not a perfect world, unfortunately. But it's most useful if you have a blue screen problem that you're having repeatedly over and over. Probably, could be caused by something like a recent driver update or something like that. Yes, there was a bit of confusion. I talked about the white up arrow to access the automatic troubleshooters. It's the white flag. But this is my first webcast, so hopefully you'll let me off. And what do we have here? Venura, if I pronounce that right. How to get more space on a boot partition. Windows takes up more than 40 gig. App data is like 10 gig. It would be if you're actually physically running out of space on that partition. What you can do is, if you go into computer management, which you can access in the start menu, if you can see it. If I right click on computer in the start menu, you can see manage. In there you can shrink the size of the partition next to it, and Windows will tell you how much it can shrink it by. It's no substitute for professional partitioning software, but it will do a good job. And then you'll be able to right click in the computer management console on your Windows drive, and you'll be able to extend that into there. Performance information tools, COF 2005 is asking, the screenshots of these in the book. Yes, it's covered in depth, in some considerable depth in the book. So that's all there. Right, what do we have? Kathy, you have to force programs to shut down. You can, if you have a look online and do a search online for wait to kill, which we'll find is one word. Wait to kill is a registry setting that you can change to change the time that Windows waits before it automatically kills a program when it shuts down. So do a search online for wait to kill. It's one simple registry setting to change. Right, what do we have here? CD DVD copy of the OS. Jonathan, if your laptops come, this is an increasing problem. if anybody has a computer that's not provided with the installation DVD for Windows, you really do have to go back to your the company you bought the computer from and insist you've bought this computer, but your license for Windows 7 has cost you a lot of money. You've paid for it, and you really do need to get this. Now, sometimes they'll usually say, well, we need to charge you, $10 shipping fee for it, and there's not really any way around that. That's something you have to pay. But it's well worth, when you buy a new computer, just checking with them that they will actually send you the installation DVD, because sooner or later you will need to reinstall it. Right, what do we have here? PowerShell. PowerShell is too big to cover in this webinar, but I'm sure that there will be others available. What do we have here, Gilbert? How would you push event log actions to client machines in a Windows domain? Once you've set up an action to occur on an error in the event log, then you ought to be able to save that action. But the problem is that you first need the error to occur on a computer, which means that if you want to set up an action on an event, you really do need to do this on the computer on which that event has occurred. So that can cause a bit of a problem, but at least it means that you ought to only have to visit that computer once. Recommendation for backup software. To be honest, I don't necessarily recommend you use Windows Backup and Restore. I do recommend the Windows System Image. I definitely recommend that. But for Backup and Restore itself, I use NTI Shadow because it came with some NAS drives that I bought. But you'll probably have others. You might have backup software that came with your computer or with your DVD or Blu-ray burner, and you'll probably find that it's perfectly good. But the thing with Windows Backup and Restore is it saves the files in a zip file, so what is essentially a zip file. So you can actually get access to them afterwards, but it doesn't make it obvious that you can that's what it does. And the best way to back up is to make sure that you've got a backup where you can see all of the files so that you can access them when you want. I'll do one more because we're running out of time, aren't we? So I'll do one more. Service Pack 1. Lots of people are asking about Service Pack 1. I've heard very, very few stories about Service Pack 1 failing to install. If Service Pack 1 does fail to install, remember you've got the Repair Your Computer options, either available from F8 when the computer starts to get into the boot menu, or from a system repair disk, or from your Windows 7 installation DVD. System Restore will, you can use System Restore here to roll back to before you installed Service Pack 1, and that should fix problems. The best and recommended way to install Service Pack 1 is to allow Windows Update to do it itself, and not to download it and do it manually the way I did and the way a lot of tech people tend to do. And Jeff, all of this information that I've talked about today and a lot more is in the book and in considerably more detail. So it's 7 o'clock, and we have some more questions. Do I have some time for them? I think I've got some time for.
Well, it's up to you, Mike. We are running out of time, and I'd hate for people to miss out on the answers. If you'd rather, would it be possible for you to do some sort of a blog post afterwards, possibly, that we can send out to the attendees?
Yeah, I can do a blog post, and people can email me directly as well through my website, or contact me on Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn, and I'm always happy to help where I can.
Perfect. Well, I'll put up your contact information one more time there so people can grab that. And I would just want to thank you. It was a fantastic presentation. I think people learned a lot.
Yes, apologies for my internet connection bugging out.
No worries. You got back on. That was great. So I also just want to thank all of our attendees here today. There was a lot of great information shared in the chat room, so thank you everyone for your contribution to this event. And as I mentioned before, we will have a recording of this available shortly. It'll probably take a day or two for us to get that edited and posted, but we'll send you all an email as soon as it's ready. And like Mike said, you can email him directly with questions, and if he ends up doing a blog post, we'll be sure to send that link out to you as well. So I think that's about it. We'll close out the meeting in just a few minutes. So thanks again for joining us, and we hope to see you again in another webcast.